Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining today. I'm excited to show you this live demo. So what I'm going to show you today is three different use cases. I'm going to start with a third-party contractor, and that third-party contractor is not going to have an agent. I'm going to show you the application usage and how they can get to apps and how we can control it in a very granular manner. And then I'm going to show you a employee use case, and that employee use case will also not have an agent. So just a simple web browser getting to very advanced applications behind firewalls in data centers from remote coffee shops or work at home environments. And then I'm also going to show you the agent solution. The agent will be even more advanced and give you full-blown VPN replacement capabilities. So with that, I'm going to start as a demo user or my third-party contractor user logging in. And once I'm logged in, I will then be able to, let me make sure I get my password correct here. Alrighty, there we go. So the third-party contractor, in this case, the demo user, has three applications listed at the top. And these applications are very generic. So the only reason I'm showing you Aruba networking is to show you that we're rewriting the URLs. For example, here's a NASA app. You can see the URL getting rewritten at the top here. As we go through different areas of the website, you'll notice the URL changes, but it's still getting rewritten, right? And back to that Aruba. This one is Aruba, and I can basically go through, any of these tabs and get to it. So everything is being controlled and very secure as it's passing through our security cloud as the first hop, and the next hop is going to the application. I'll explain to a minute and how the back end of this works. I'll get a little bit more technical, but for right now, I wanted to keep it high level. So the other thing we can do is other protocols. So not just web, but we can do SSH, we can do clientless SSH. So in this case, I'm using a web browser to get into a backend SSH server. And in a case, maybe a use case might be where your third-party contractor needs to get into a single server to manage something via command line, right? So this is also valuable for if you have a managed service, for example, and a vendor needs to come in and manage your routers and firewalls. In the case of Comport, for example, you could simply deploy a connector inside your environment, and they would be able to do this from end to end. So that's pretty powerful considering it's just a simple web browser. We also have the ability to use a desktop agent of your choice. So maybe you're using a desktop agent called PuTTY, or on Mac, you might be using Terminal, right? So these are some options to go in, again, without installing a client, without installing a SSE agent, you can use your own client to get into those secure shell environments. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a new application, and I'm going to show you how quick and easy it is to add a brand new application. And that application, for example, will be Comport. And so this is our management console. There's plenty of reports, and I can drill down on all of these different areas. I'm going to come back to this in a little bit, but first I want to talk about this new application that I'm going to create for Comport. And so I'll click New Application. I'm going to click Web Hosted App, and then I'm going to give it a name. And so there's something else that we do here that's really, really super simple and unique. And that is we have our built-in IDP. Of course, you can use Ping, Okta, OAuth 2.0, right? So your choice of identity providers. But most importantly is this application tag. So this is where things get really, really simple. So if I create 20 applications and I tag them all with the demo user tag, everybody in that demo user group immediately gets access to that application, right? So imagine this web server is behind a firewall in a data center somewhere, right? So So I'm going to commit these changes, and notice back in my portal, I don't see it yet, but within 10 seconds, it's going to pop up, and then I'm going to be able to access that in real time. So that's what we call continuous authorization. And there it is, right? So now I can click on Comport, and it takes me to the Comport website. So again, notice the URL is getting rewritten. This could be behind a firewall, right? This is just an example to make it easy today. I have plenty of others behind. I'm going to show you in a minute behind firewalls. But as I click around and scroll through this website, notice again the URL is getting completely rewritten, and we're doing that all through our cloud environment and protecting the end users and data. Right. So now what's really interesting is I mentioned continuous authorization, right? That application popped up in real time, right? I didn't have to refresh my browser or anything. I can also take it away in real time. In other words, I can remove and revoke access for that user in real time. So if I go over to my Comport app and I disable it simply by clicking that little button, I'm going to apply changes. I go back to my portal. I can still see it there, but within 10 seconds, this will disappear.
You're not hitting refresh. That's literally just coming and going as the administrator makes the changes, right? So you're not asking the customer to reboot, relog in, just give it 10 seconds and your changes apply, right?
That's exactly right. It's continuously authorizing and checking to see if you have access. So now that I don't have access, if I go back to my page that was previously opened and I try to go to any one of these links, I get a 404 error, page not found message, right? So it's very, very secure, and we're able to lock down private applications in real time very, very rapidly and quickly. So one of our claims to fame is our ease of use. Our management console is extremely easy to use and very, very powerful, right? So what I'd like to do now is switch gears and move away from the third-party contractor to the advanced power user. So I'm going to log out now and log back in as myself as a power user. I have a completely different portal and a completely different set of applications. So for example, I've got an RDP application, a Windows environment. I can click on this and I can get to my Windows virtual server in the data center over a web browser, right? So imagine a jump server, you need to get to anything in your environment. You can do that simply from this particular jump server or Windows 10 server, or even a Windows server or RDS, remote desktop services environments, or virtual environments. There's a lot of options there in RDP, right? The next one I'll show is a private IP. So this happens to be a private SD-WAN orchestrator. And for example, our Edge Connect product as a orchestrator, we have an on-prem version of it. That is this. So it's a private IP that I'm reaching through the SSE cloud. Again, notice the URL is getting rewritten, and everything I do on this particular solution is protected through my SSE cloud. Another example might be a vCenter server. For example, let's say I'm the IT administrator and I need to manage my infrastructure on the back end. Maybe I need to change some storage, compute, or manage virtual machines. I can do that as well. Another example is a single application like Adobe Photoshop Express. Right. So earlier I logged into this Windows 10 RDP machine. Well, what if I could just launch a single application on that machine? As a third-party contractor, this could be very valuable, right? So if I log into this, I have a couple ways to log in, right? I can force the end user to authenticate, or I can provide credentials in advance on the application definition. The benefit of that is the end user would have no idea what the real user credentials are. So if I needed to revoke access in the future, that end user would never know what the original credentials were. So in this case, now I've got Adobe Photoshop Express running. I can edit my artwork. Let's say I'm working for an advertising agency and I'm doing some covers for some magazines, for example. I could edit that. I could, create that and save that and send it to my employer, and I'm done. So that's back to the third-party contractor use case without an agent. All right, so pretty powerful all around. So far, we've done everything with a single web browser. Imagine you're having a holiday dinner at one of your relatives' house, and you get a call from work, and you got to log in, do something for a report. You could do that with anybody's web browser. You can go and sit down on their laptop or their desktop, log in with your credentials, two-party authentication, two-factor authentication, and then get right in and do your job. So very, very powerful from that perspective. So let's see, that covers the power user use case without an agent. Now let's switch gears and log into the agent. So I'm going to log in, and in this case, I've set up my IDP, my built-in IDP. I also have Okta as a choice and Azure Entra ID as a choice. I'm going to choose Access, and I'm going to authenticate with my account. And then the agent establishes a connection, and it downloads the profile and policies from the management console. So again, it's continuous authorization, and it's updated in real time. So now if I go back to, remember that orchestrator that I was logged into earlier, what I'm going to do in this case is, instead of logging in and getting that URL rewritten through the portal, I'm going to go direct. And I happen to have a bookmark up here, and that takes me directly to the IP address, as if I were on a old-fashioned legacy VPN, with the difference being that I've restricted, I've controlled access granularly in a much more secure way than I would have otherwise. What that looks at like from a policy perspective is it's really an application. It's an application called Labs, Big Security Lab IP range. So if I go in and take a quick look at what I've done, for all the technical people in the audience, you'll see this is an IP address range. This is a private range that you would normally have behind a firewall in a data center, or it could be a cloud environment, right? As long as it's protected and hidden behind a firewall, this makes it reachable to me when I'm running the agent, no matter where I am, anywhere in the world. And one of the most important things, again, I mentioned this earlier, are the application tags. These tags really simplify the configuration of the policies and the applications. And then the second step, so first step is to create the application and the tag. The second step is to create the rule, right? So in this case, I've got a rule that basically says, if I'm a user, a power user, and I'm running the agent's on, the firewall's on, then I'm going to be able to get to my applications that are tagged, right? Remember that lab IP range that I just showed you? That was tagged. Well, this is the tag that I put in this rule. So it's a very, very simple, easy to manage solution. I've got another rule here called block gambling. So while the agent is running, I can actually enforce this. So if I go to gambling, access to this page has been blocked. So it's very, very, easy to configure and very powerful. This is a secure web gateway policy. So far, everything else has been zero trust, right? So that low-hanging fruit in security is replacing the old-fashioned legacy VPN concentrator. And so what we've done is we replaced it with 100% software, security in the cloud, and then easy to manage and control all access. So then that takes me to the dashboard and some of the reporting capabilities that we have built in. So for example, here are some of the user activities, graphs and charts. I've got some other applications. These are private applications, right, that have access. If I wanted to drill down, let's say for Photoshop, for example, I could drill down and it filters and brings up a very granular report called exploration. So each one of these are a single flow. And this is my source IP, my public IP. This is my username. Obviously, this is RDP. This is the protocol. And then some other detail about the application match and rule match and so on and so forth. Right. So very, very granular reporting capabilities built in.